Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Algebra 1 for Monday, May 11th. Tomorrow we're going to have a quiz on graphing in intercept and vertex form of a quadratic. So today I'm going to give you 4 examples that you can study from and or use while taking your quiz. So the first one says y equals 1/2 x plus 4 x minus 2. First thing you have to recognize here is the form that the equation is in. This is in the intercept form of a quadratic equation where it shows you the x-intercepts. So we should identify them. The p is -4 and the q-intercept is +2. We always said that it's what would make the factor a 0. -4 plus 4 is 0, so -4 is the first intercept, and +2 minus 2 is 0, therefore 2 is the q-intercept, the second x-intercept. To find the x value of the vertex, we take those two numbers and we add them together and divide by 2 to find their average. -4 plus 2 is -2, and when you divide that by 2, you get -1. So the x value of the vertex is -1. We're going to take that information and plug it into the equation to find the y value of the vertex. So plugging it in, I get y equals 1/2 parenthesis -1 plus 4, -1 minus 2. And that's 1/2 of 3 times -3. And that's 1/2 of -9, which is -4.5. So the vertex of this parabola is going to be at, capital V for vertex, -1, -4.5. I found the vertex, and I already know the x-intercepts, the p and the q, so now I can graph the equation. So at -1, -4.5, I have my vertex. The intercepts were -4 and +2. We saw them right there, -4 and +2. And now I'm just going to sketch the curve. So it goes down through and comes up and arrowheads on the ends. And that's the answer. Please understand what I'm looking for here. Show me the math for how you found the vertex. Then graph the vertex and the x-intercepts clearly and show me the curve. And that will be 100% for that question. Okay, the next one I'm going to review with you is y equals -2 parenthesis x plus 1 parenthesis x plus 5. So once again, identify the form. It's clearly in intercept form. So it's showing you the x-intercepts. Let's identify them. The p is -1 and the q is -5. Because -1 plus 1 would be a 0, and -5 plus 5 would be the other 0. We find the x value of the vertex by adding them together. So x equals -1 plus -5, and we find their average by dividing by 2. That's -6 over 2, which is -3. So we found the x value of the vertex. Now we plug it in to find the y value of the vertex. Y equals -2 times -3 plus 1 times -3 plus 5. In the parentheses, we have -3 plus 1, that's -2. We have -3 plus 5, that's +2. -2 times -2 times +2 is 8. So the vertex has been identified at -3, +8, and we already identified what the intercepts were, the -1 and the -5, so now we can graph it. And I need to have a lot of positive y, and only -x is really necessary, so I'll go like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and just a little bit on the other sides just for balance. I have negative 3, 8 is the vertex, so 3 to the left and 8 up. And I have intercepts at negative 1 and also negative 5. So negative 1 gets a dot, and negative 5 gets a dot. And obviously my line of sight was a little off, but here is my curve. Comes up, curves around, goes down, arrowheads on the ends. Why are the arrowheads necessary? Well, it's because that the curve keeps on going forever. It doesn't just begin and end where we graphed it. You have to go all the way to and through and put arrowheads on the ends. If you didn't put the arrowheads down, if you just ended it right there, it's not exactly right, because that would terminate, and the parabola doesn't terminate. It keeps on going forever. Now, those two were in intercept form, which was actually the last concept we covered. The first concept we covered in this unit is how to graph from vertex form. So let's do two of those. Let's see, y equals negative 1/4 times x minus 2 squared plus 4. This is called vertex form. When you have y equals some number, parentheses with an x, a power of 2, then outside the parentheses is plus or minus a number. That's showing you the vertex. So in vertex form, it is the opposite of this number, so positive 2, and exactly what this number says, positive 4. It gives you the vertex, which lets you make an xy t-table. In our t-table, we put the vertex in the middle. So 2, 4 goes right there. That's the vertex. That's in the middle of my t-table. I'm going to choose two values that are less than x and two values that are more than x. So if this is my vertex 2, then one under it is 1, one under that is 0, one higher is 3, one higher than that is 4. You're going to have 5 consecutive integers. That's the easiest way to do this. Now, to find out what the y value is, we just plug it in one at a time. You can show all the math, or you could do a little bit of just calculator work. It's going to be okay. So I'll show you how we would do it with, let's say, one of the inputs being shown. If I plug in a 0, this is how I'm going to plug in a 0 for x and see what happens. Remember the order of operations. First is inside the parentheses. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. The next thing to do is not the 1/4. It is squaring negative 2. Be careful. If you're going to use a calculator, be very careful how you input that, because negative 2 squared is 4. If you type in negative 2 to the power of 2 with no parentheses, it's going to tell you negative 4, which is wrong. So understand that whenever you square something, it's going to be positive. Now the order of operations says I need to multiply these two numbers. Negative 1/4 times 4 is negative 1. And then finally, negative 1 plus 4 is 3. So when I plug in a 0, I get out a 3. That's the output. You could do the same exact thing for the 1 and the 3 and the 4. I'll show you the 1, and then we'll presume we have symmetry. So if I plug in the 1, I'm going to do the same thing I just did, but with the number 1 instead of 0 for x. Parentheses first, so we have negative 1/4. 1 minus 2 is negative 1 squared plus 4. Square the negative 1 and you get positive 1 plus 4. Negative 1/4 times 1 is negative 1/4. And if I add 4 to negative 1/4, I get 3 3/4, or 3.75 if you prefer. Now, I don't have to show the other two inputs being plugged in, because if I did it correctly, I'll have symmetry. I have confidence that I did it correctly. If you don't, check them. It's okay. But I know that that will be 3.75 also because of the symmetry about the vertex, and that will be 3. If you're not sure, just plug them in the same way we just did. Be careful, follow the order of operations, and you'll be fine. And then we graph it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure you have about equal spacing, and hopefully you'll just print the sheet that I give you with the quiz because it's got coordinate grids on it. You won't have to make your own grid. 0, 3 is the first coordinate to plot. It's right there. Then 1, 3.75, so almost at 4. And then 2, 4. And then 3, 3.75. And then 4, 3. So it looks like that. It's a very wide parabola, and that's perfectly fine. The reason why it's very wide is because of that number right there, 1/4. It's a smaller fraction, and it widens the parabola. Okay? And then, of course, by the way, you have to show this. You have to show me identifying the vertex. You have to show me the t-table. The quiz will have a t-table written right on it. Please fill it out. Show some work if you want majority credit, because if you make mistakes without the work shown, I really can't give you credit for it. Okay. Last example for today is going to be y equals 2 parentheses x plus 1 squared minus 4. All right. Again, same form as last time. This is, again, vertex form. So begin by identifying the vertex. The vertex is at -1, -4. So far, so good. All right. Because I've identified the vertex, I can make my t-table with the vertex in the middle. Choose your inputs carefully and choose them so that they are consecutive. So that's -2 and that's -3. And that's 0 and that's 1. They have to go in order. So please make sure you have 5 numbers that are continuous and consecutive. And then you plug in the numbers. So I'll just show you one example. Y equals 2, plug in a -3. So y equals 2, -3 plus 1 is -2 squared minus 4. Order of operations says do the squaring next. -2 squared is +4. 2 times 4 is 8. And 8 minus 4 is 4. Okay? And I guess I'll do this one too. If I plug in the -2, whoops, I should have written an equal sign, not a parenthesis. So we get 2 times -2 plus 1 squared minus 4. And inside the parentheses, -2 plus 1 is -1 squared minus 4. Square the -1 to get 1. And now you have to multiply 2 times 1, which is 2. And finally, 2 minus 4 is -2. Okay. I'm going to have faith that my values are so far correct, and I'm going to fill it out for symmetry. So if that was 4, -2, -4, I'm going to have another -2 and then a +4. If you are, again, in doubt of anything you've done, just continue to plug in the inputs to make sure you get the right outputs. Again, to verify your work, you can use Desmos to graph it. You can use a graphing calculator to graph it, but you're not going to get full credit unless I see some work in the t-table. Even one problem, just where you plug it in so you're showing me what you're doing, and I can have confidence in what you're doing. Because if anything is wrong, I can't give you credit. Okay, so we've got our values. Make your graph. It's got to go up to 4 on the y and down to -4. On the x, -3 to +1. So more or less a full grid. Okay, first coordinate, -3, +4. So I'm going to put it over here. -2, -2, so it shoots on down to here. -1, -4, all the way down to there. 0, -2, and then 1, 4. And again, of course, it should have symmetry and it should look like a good parabola with arrowheads on both ends. Your quiz tomorrow is just like this. There will be 4 prompts. 2 will be in vertex form, 2 will be in intercept form. I want to see the elements that I just showed you. Please, when you get that, take your time with it, but submit it to me, of course, by the next morning so that it's on time. Other than that, there's no homework tonight, but to practice, to study if you want to review, and just to be ready for tomorrow's quiz. Have a wonderful day.